How's it going, everyone? It's Vivi and welcome back to Spyro the Dragon. Characters I'd like to see return for the next game. I think what definitely inspired me to cover this topic is not only the bright looking future for the series, but the design of certain characters. The design I absolutely adored. The Elder Dragons. We went from low poly, similar looking dragons, to dragons which you feel like they have their own specialty. Whether it's being a wizard, a chef, a sculptor, I mean looking at Nestor, I feel there's potential, with him especially. He's the first dragon you free in close proximity in Artisans. Why not have him featured in the next game? Nestor certainly gives off a royal status of the Artisans' homeworld. Not just from his attire, but the way he speaks to Spyro. I'm not talking about the generic wise old man tone of voice, but more along the lines of his delivery. Spyro wondering about Nasty Nork, about his whereabouts. Well, Nestor replies calmly, and tells him to free dragons first. Hey, maybe you might not agree with what I said, but if I were to pick one dragon from the roster, Nestor is the one I'd go with. While at it, for the next game, don't bring back Nasty. Let alone the Sorceress, or even Ripto. You might say, but Vivi, how would they even bring back the Sorceress? One, she fell in lava. Yes, she survived that fall, but then she fell into purple goo. How's she supposed to come back, right? Look, I want Toys for Bob to avoid that typical scenario, where a villain returns, unless there is definite potential. Look, I understand Toys for Bob removed the epilogues from 2 and 3, looking at 3s, especially, where Nasty and Ripto discuss the Spyro problem. I get it. Revenge and all that stuff. But what I'd like to see, just an idea for you guys. A new villain. Think of an Exiled Dragon. Why? Well look, the dragons from the Dragon Realms, they're all perceived as peaceful creatures, right? What if a certain dragon went haywire sometime in the past? That dragon could have originated from Artisans, or another land. But the idea is, this dragon did something so bad, so cruel, that he was exiled and never to return again. But then he comes back. I imagine Nestor, for example, being the one who encounters him. Heck, throw in some fire-breathing action, a nice cutscene with these two battling for a certain moment. Whatever strength these two have left in them, show it on screen. Make a cutscene out of it. I at least want to see cutscenes with Elder Dragons. And just as a bonus for you, this bad dragon, or misunderstood dragon, sends his troops to the different worlds of the Dragon Realms. Cue Spyro needing to stop them by going to those worlds one by one, while also helping out the folks in those worlds. When it comes to others, I want to see Hunter come back. I won't be diving into the mechanics in this video, but I do hope him being featured means he's playable. That's all. As for his story, Bianca and him had a thing in Spyro 3. They could explore that. I'm not asking for a full-on soap opera, no. Just have cutscenes with these two, breaking their heads over one another. Make it funny. Hunter has arrows, which he barely uses in the series. He either gets hired by the dragon community or decides to join Spyro, and he'll hopefully start using his arrows more. See it all in action. And I would imagine him saying this to Spyro. By the way, you did save Avalar from Ripto's chaos, so I might as well help you out, Spyro. I mean, that's something I'd expect him to say eventually. Plus, Hunter does seem to have a close relationship with their community. He was present during the Year of the Dragons festival. Well, technically he was asleep, but he was present within the Dragon Realms. So I can easily expect Hunter to be one of the main characters that will return in the next game. Up next, Elora. Why? Well, simply because she was mainly present in Avalar's homeworlds. Why not have her featured in certain levels? Her knowledge with restoring the world to peace, example in Spyro 2. The whole thing about the gathering talismans and all that. She really does have leadership skills. She could be the brains of the operation in certain levels. Now when it comes to what people call the shipping aspect, the closeness these two had in Spyro 3, I don't expect that to go anywhere too deep. If anything, she'll care a lot about Spyro. So much in fact, she decides to take matters into her own hands, visit worlds herself, like I just said, finding her in certain levels. She might go through a period where she feels useless, thinking that her not doing anything physically is just a waste of time. I could imagine this new bad guy stumbling upon Elora and toying with her mind, making her feel even more useless. I want to see Elora grow as a character, someone messing with her, and making her do stupid things, like risking her life. I'd expect Spyro to worry about that at some point. Some dragons, like Nestor or someone else entirely, might compliment her on her leadership skills of Avalar. That's the personality she gave off in Spyro 2, that's her strength. I'd love to have a scene with her questioning herself, and having a certain Elder Dragon comfort her, reassure her that what she's doing is already more than helpful. Some might say, well, Vivi, that's Spyro's responsibility, right? To comfort Elora. Yes, in a way. Spyro encounters Elora, let's imagine that. He tells her to go away because it's not safe. Spyro already knows of her strengths, right? He already knows she's an asset to the gang, with her leadership skills. It's just, in the next game, we could see an insecure side of her, to a point where she finds herself discussing with an Elder Dragon. But how would this Elder Dragon know anything about Elora in the first place? Well, have the Professor be part of the equation, play a flashback scene. Professor met up with the dragon, let's say, out of the roster, let's pick Lindar, for example. Lindar seems to be the technical guy that would be friends with the Professor, or at least be interested in what the Professor studies. Through the Professor, this dragon heard of Elora. I'm simply going with the Elder Dragon route because it feels like a change. Like I just said, the majority expect Spyro to comfort Elora, but having a dragon do it instead, to some extent, would be interesting. Low-key, this is another reason to feature the Elders. All in all, I want to see Elora's character shine and go through some hardships and fight through it. Make her playable? Maybe in some sort of minigame section? I don't expect her to fight. What if a puzzle section for her? That would be interesting. Fun fact, according to technical designer / programmer Darren Schebek of Spyro Attack of the Rhinox, a game on the Game Boy Advance from 2003, he wanted Elora to be playable originally. As an aside, I really wanted to put Elora somewhere in the game, but our workload was simply too intense, and Elora unfortunately fell through the cracks. If we do another Spyro game, I'm going to push for Elora as a playable character. Look, this doesn't really add anything to the video, but we can't help but wonder that someone out there who worked on a Spyro game had ideas for a playable section for Elora. If the next game turns out to be about Spyro trying to stop a war zone, you know, this Exiled Dragon sending his henchmen in different worlds, I'd imagine Sergeant James Byrd fitting in the storyline. He did grow up to join the Air Corps, he's in the military, and he did make references to his medals in A Hero's Tale. I won't be surprised if they throw in references from other games. Any threat airborne in levels? I easily expect Sergeant Byrd to be playable. If they want to spice it up a little, story-wise, have him know a thing or two, or at least him having heard of the name of this Exiled Dragon before. That's causing trouble throughout the lands right now. Plus, he did originate from the Forgotten Realms, where dragons once used to inhabit. As for other characters, I'd expect them to play very minor roles, appear in a few levels here and there. I could go through a whole list, but in my opinion, I feel like I've gone over the characters I really see potential in. If you feel like other characters also have potential, feel free to say so in the comments section below, okay? And before I wrap up the video, here's another thing I'd like to see. Give us some background, lore, on the relationship of dragonflies and dragons. The classic direction. I'm not talking about the Legend of Spyro series. I want Toys for Bob, assuming they're going to be the ones working on the next Spyro game. I want them to come up with a story explaining how Sparks came into contact with the dragons from the Dragon Realms. Do you feel like my ideas blend well with a classic Spyro game? You know, along the lines of 2 and 3 at least. I'm not expecting a game which is going to be dark and gritty or has to do with destiny or prophecy, stuff like that. No. I'm expecting Toys for Bob, assuming it's going to be them, to give us a game which is similar to 2 and 3, but with a layer of new stuff, especially in terms of story. So with that being said, folks, this is it for the video. So as usual, if you have your own theories, thoughts, questions, or anything of such sort, leave it all in the comment section below. And as always, I've been Vivi, and thank you so much for watching.